Hey guys. Mm, let's try that again. Hey guys. It's Kelly, and I posted a video. Um, I think it was yesterday, about 17 minutes long, explaining that there would be another video coming. And while this is going to be technically a video going up, I am not going to be showing my face in this, because I don't want it to take away from the message that I want to put across. This is mainly a statement, my experiences, things like that, and it is heavily scripted. Um, and the reason that it's scripted is because I know me, and I know that I will inevitably go on tangents, get fixated on one small detail, and write an entire, essentially, dissertation about that one detail. So the script itself is going to keep me very focused. Um, and I've written it in such a way that it says all of the things that I want to say without me losing myself or my place or any of that. Um, so I think what I'm probably going to do with this video is put some sort of image, or miscellaneous video, that doesn't have any audio over the top of this, just so you guys have something to see, some sort of visual or something. I'm not entirely sure yet. I just know that I want to get this out. I also don't want my face and the things that I can't change within 5 minutes, any sort of fur- furrowing, oh my god, words are hard, furrowing of my brow, or anything that looks like contempt, or how I say words. I don't want any of that to take away again from the message that is in this video. And that's part of why I'm not going to be showing my face. But I do want you to be able to, at the very least, hear my voice and know that it is me. It's not just a script. It's something that I feel is important enough to address, and I'm addressing it vocally. Um, and yeah, without further ado, let's get into what this is all about. Also, you may hear my mouse click and things like that, from the computer and such. So I apologize for any of like the scrolling sounds and stuff like that. This is quite a few pages long. Um, but I hope that you will bear with me. I'm gonna try to make this as clear, clean, concise, and short as I possibly can, while also giving it the care that it needs and room to breathe. So with all that being said, let's get started. I want to talk about something I've been observing over the last few days, because I've been involved in parts of this situation, and I think it's important that I clarify where I stand. And I want to be very clear from the beginning, this isn't me making a video to defend Jen, attack the person who made the Google Doc, defend Adam, or tell anybody what they're supposed to think. Give me just a moment, I need to take a sip of water. This is me talking about what I have personally seen, where I think I've gotten involved in ways that I probably shouldn't have, what I learned, and what I'm choosing to do moving forward. I'm going to say what I feel is necessary to say. I'm not going to explain every detail of every interaction I've had, because some of those conversations are private. Some have since been deleted or retracted by other parties and have lost some context, and because I don't think I owe the internet every single piece of context in order for my boundary to be valid. At the end of the day, the only part of this situation that I actually have any control over is my own participation in it. For those who don't know, this started, from my understanding, with the Sixpence. Now, that's not to say that they are to blame, but this is the timeline as I recall it. I could be wrong here, but this is the order in which the events happened for me, so here's a small recap to get you caught up. The Sixth Sense came out with their video. Paige Christie came out with her response. Adam came out with his. From what I have seen, which admittedly isn't much, the Sixth Sense did an interview style video where they asked Jen about her experiences. It's worth noting, by the way, side note, that their channel no longer exists. You can't find these videos anymore. But regardless, this is again setting a timeline. I haven't watched that video personally. It's quite lengthy, and I'm only mentioning it here to establish a timeline. Either way, toward the end, Spence mentions Paige, and Paige made it known in her response video how she felt. I watched her video. Admittedly, it was much shorter, and in her video, she mentioned that the rest of the original video was fine, so I didn't feel the need to go digging through it, as I had no plans to talk about it. Fast forward an hour or so later, on the same day that Paige made her video, and Adam drops his, or at least that's how it is fed to me, claiming that Jen needs to be stopped. In this video, he references a Google document that had essentially gone viral by this point, and that's where the rest of this starts. I read the Google document that was circulating about Jen, albeit I mainly read the document and couldn't see much of the screenshots, but eventually I was able to actually read the screenshots themselves, and there were things in it that I found genuinely problematic. I'm not going to pretend that I didn't see them, and I'm not going to pretend that I think everything Jen said or did was okay. Some of the behavior described, including some of the ableist language, was absolutely problematic. I can acknowledge that. But what I've watched happen since then is where things started getting much more complicated. The situation didn't stay on the original topic. Actually, many situations didn't. The entire situation began with Jen finally getting hard evidence that Gabby had a hand in the allegations levied against her, and she made her video. This was about Gabby's problematic parasocial behavior, Alyssa's continued harassment of Jen, and Gracie's role in the viral Twitter allegations at Gabby's request. Since that video, and since Adam's reacting to Alyssa video about her leaving the fandom, the situation shifted off of Gabby and onto Jen versus Adam. Now, I don't think anyone needs a recap of that. Again, this isn't me making a video to defend Jen, attack the person who made the Google Doc, defend Adam, or anything of the sort. I'm just painting a clear picture of where things started and where things wound up. In regards to the document specifically, though, which pointed at posted tweets that Jen made in the past and somewhat recently, it started becoming less and less about the specific behavior that brought the document into existence and more about Jen herself as the person. And then there was escalation. Jen continued posting problematic tweets and responding to people. Other people continued responding to her. More people got involved. More people started reacting to the reactions. And eventually it became this giant feedback loop where everybody was responding to everybody else. And at a certain point, I was sitting there going, okay, this isn't healthy anymore. Not just for Jen, not just for the people criticizing her, for everybody involved. And I need to own something here. There were times where I went to bat for Jen, especially in the early stages of her Twitter going off. Alyssa's fan account, within a very small time frame, was already harassing Jen. They were slinging insults, wild accusations, and it was reminiscent of when Alyssa was gloating about getting exposure online due to Adam reacting to her video. That, for me personally, sent up red flags, and I got involved. And looking back, there were times where I probably shouldn't have. But I did, and I want to explain why I did. Because it wasn't because I thought Jen was inherently right. It wasn't because I thought everything she said was okay. And it wasn't because I had decided that anybody criticizing her was automatically wrong. I did it because I was watching what I perceived as an increasingly disproportionate amount of hate and harassment being directed at her. Sure, there was criticisms, but there were also people just outright being cruel just because they could. And when I see something that feels unfair, my instinct is to say something. That's just how I am as a person. That's my own justice sensitivity. But I've had to recognize that my instinct to intervene doesn't mean that intervention is the best choice. Sometimes saying something is useful, but sometimes it just puts me another step closer to something that isn't even mine. That all being said, this is where I actually stand. I think Jen said and did things that were wrong. I also think the backlash directed at her has, at times, been wildly disproportionate. And I don't think accountability requires cruelty. You can say that the behavior was acceptable. You can bring attention to it. You can expect someone to take accountability. And you can still recognize when the response has crossed into harassment or bullying. Neither of those stances outweigh the other. Online, however, it often feels like nuance gets flattened into picking a side, and this has very much become a pick a side situation when it never had to be. It became either you were Team Adam or you were Team Jen. And I think there's another piece that's important to acknowledge. The person who created the Google Doc also eventually tried to stop some of the harassment that was being directed at Jen. I think that's incredibly important to note because the situation isn't as simple as one person exposed something and then everyone else reacted. There were people on multiple sides who eventually recognized that things were getting out of hand. The people that were trying to bring attention to the fact that the conversation and critique had crossed into harassment and bullying territory were met with either further bullying and backlash and were assumed to either be an enabler of Jen or an alt account of Jen, or they were talked down to, degraded, and insulted at times by Jen. The Google document creator at one point, and I don't know by who, but was accused of being Gabby Hanna of all people, which is wild. Jen's Twitter feed became a metaphorical bloodbath, at least from my perspective. I had a conversation with the person who created the document where I expressed my perspective that at a certain point, continuing to publicly explain and defend every aspect of the document was actually contributing to the escalation. You can put information out there, you can absolutely explain what happened, and you can correct factual inaccuracies, but you can't control how every person perceives that information or how they respond to it. At some point, you have to let the information breathe, and that's exactly what I told them. Ultimately, they recognized that continuing to engage wasn't helping and chose to back off. It doesn't matter much in the grand scheme of Twitter, but I think that was the right decision, and I supported it. And that's where I had to take a step back myself and look at my own behavior. I realized that I was getting too emotionally involved in something that I actually don't have any control over. I was thinking about it when I wasn't on Twitter. I was getting stressed about it. I was losing sleep over it. And eventually I had to ask myself, why am I carrying this like it's mine or like I'm the one that's responsible for this? Because realistically, I don't have to. I don't have to determine who's right or make everybody understand my perspective or have to monitor how it plays out. And I don't even have to be involved. So I'm stepping back. And I want to be clear again. This isn't me making some grand declaration about anybody involved. It's a boundary for me. I'm distancing myself from the situation because it isn't good for my mental health. I'm not going to insert myself into ongoing back and forth. I'm not going to make myself responsible for what other adults choose to say or do. And I'm not going to make this situation part of my routine anymore. This is something I've had to learn about myself. I have a tendency to want to understand everything. I want context. I want to know why someone did something. I want to understand the why behind things and actions. And sometimes that turns into me carrying things that were never mine to carry in the beginning. I can care about what's happening without making myself responsible for fixing the problem. I can recognize that somebody behaved badly without deciding that they're irredeemable. I can recognize that somebody's being treated unfairly without deciding that that means I have to defend them. I can also recognize patterns of behavior that I don't align myself with and create distance. I can hold nuance without becoming part of the conflict. And that's what I'm choosing to do now. I don't expect everybody to agree with me. Honestly, I don't even need everybody to agree with me. I'm not presenting this as some definitive interpretation of what happened. This is my observation. This is what I saw. This is where I participated. This is where I think I could have made different choices. And this is what I'm choosing to do differently going forward. I think there were legitimate concerns raised. I also think the response became disproportionate in ways that were very harmful. I think people can be held accountable without being relentlessly harassed. And I think that applies to everybody involved. At the end of the day, I'm not interested in picking a side or fighting for it. I'm interested in stepping back, taking care of my own mental health, and letting the people involved handle their own situations. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do isn't figure out who's right. It's to recognize that you don't have to be in the middle at all. Update to add. While I understand perspectives such as hurt people, and I can understand Jen being in a highly emotionally reactive state due to the continuous harassment done by Alyssa and their alt and fan accounts, I don't stand by nor agree with the statements that Jen has made. Initially, I jumped in to defend her from the bullying and harassment, not the critique and criticisms. I can absolutely understand someone being harassed relentlessly and basically going, okay, you want to play that game? Let's play. However, it would have been one thing to just give Alyssa or the muckers a hard time. It's another thing entirely to make damaging, sweeping statements that affect other communities. None of us are exempt from getting angry or reaching our boiling point and reacting in a way that is out of character for us. What I wish I'd seen, however, was Jen taking a moment to let the internet lose their mind, reflect instead of react, and then come out with a statement. It's not what happened, and I'm disappointed. I was wrong loudly on Twitter. But my largest audience is here on YouTube. So I'd like to correct myself loudly as well, in a place where not everyone knows what happened. I want to be an example of the kind of person that I wish to be, a healing, better person than I was yesterday, last week, last month, last year. I want to remain open to growth, criticism, and be given the chance to take accountability, to walk back a mistake and recognize it. No one has told me to do this, or pressured me to. This is something I have been thinking on and giving a great deal of thought to over days. Yes, I have absolutely lost sleep over this. My internal sense of justice ran ahead of my better judgment for a moment. I'm working to recalibrate that now. You don't have to accept this as an apology or anything else if you don't want to. That's fine. This is something I felt like I had to do for my own peace of mind, and whether people stay or leave is up to them. Either way, I understand, and I thank you all, once again, for your time, your patience, and your energy. I don't want to make a habit of making videos like this, but I will always remain authentic to who I am, and that will always look like speaking up, even when, and especially when, I'm wrong. I will absolutely tell on myself, because transparency builds trust. I made a mistake. I'm going to do better. I absolutely have regrets for how I handled situations and myself. And though I think I've been pretty fair to most people, I do want to say that if I have in any way hurt someone via my words or actions on Twitter, you have my deepest apology. I hope you stick around for the journey, and if you do, I'll see you in the next video. I've said what I feel is important. What people choose to infer from that is up to them now. I'm not responsible for conclusions that I didn't make or come to myself. I hope you guys have a great day. I hope you guys are able to reflect. I hope you guys are able to heal, be well, take care of yourselves, stay safe online. And as I just stated a minute ago, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.